Did you happen to get my email this afternoon?
What was it about? I was like,
The bylaws say that the clerk is also a one-year term.
oh,
And we had Barb last May, but I don't know that she was the one who did it in October.
no, I don't think you did. I think I wanted to.
Yeah.
But yes, I did. I answered your email. I said something like that.
I don't read that right, correct?
Wanda.
Barb's
Pardon?
here.
Barb is here.
Oh, she's taking minutes?
Ellen's taking minutes.
Okay.
Devon, are you gonna run sound or do you want me to?
Sure, I can run.
All right, red will be roving mic for audience speakers, so I'm setting up yellow for the
Oh, perfect.
for reports and all that.
Are you gonna sit up there?
There's still limitation on this call.
I might go up there.
And he said, okay, this is why I want you to go. No, this is a real.
I don't know, I'm sorry. Oh. Not get it together.
So you need some help? You need any help?
No, thank you, I appreciate it, yeah, but it's just, yeah, long brain. Yeah, I kind of did, yeah, sort of, but it's kind of the, I can't take a long nap, 10 minutes and I'm awake, or the dog barks, so it's not, yeah. I feel a little bit better afterwards, but it
But
doesn't
that's
last.
better if you sleep for more than that. You don't want to get up.
That's what they say,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what they say. I haven't found that out by experience yet.
know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm I'm sorry. I'm
Just need to plug it in.
brain dead.
Ellen, it took us about 45 minutes to get everything's plugged in. Offering today.
Oh,
It's crazy.
I mean, did the machine stay on after it, the computer after it had gone off that first time?
Yeah, it stayed on, but it was updating antivirus. That took about 10 minutes.
Good heavens.
And then there are other interesting.
Oh, well, you know, Lydia's the one to talk to about, not me. Can I unplug either of those? Can I use this power strip?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it on? It says it's on.
It's on. You've got a light.
Yes, and he said he would bring it back.
If this is the best place for this or not.
Okay. What?
Fancy. The fancy setup there.
Yeah, Jim's gonna write those thoughts down.
Oh, cool.
I think we're ready. Oh, turn on sound. Robert's rules. Who was Robert? Anybody know?
Yes, he was a military guy.
Okay. Do we know why his thing became standard? Just that good?
Yeah, it was last year.
I guess. Let's see the historical stuff here.
Is this a good length for you? Like a closer? It might not be turned on yet.
That's a good distance. I think it'll pick up my voice.
Yeah.
I'll probably come down. Share papers with my wife. I'll make sure the mics are
Relax a little while. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did you pick her? Yeah.
I don't know if,
Just find me watching basketball in the background.
Yeah.
it is probably the only day of the week that I set an alarm. For an hour.
Oh, General Henry M. Roberts.
Oh, General, okay, great, yeah, thank you, General Henry M. Roberts. And his rules. Those rules you gotta follow. Yeah. I just don't want to get too warm, although it was like 76 degrees when I came in here. Yeah, so I turned it off. It'll probably cool off. How was your afternoon, Christabel?
Good, good, good.
Yeah.
Children came, so.
Oh, nice. That's
That's
good.
nice.
Yeah.
Chatting and, eating and chatting.
Yeah.
Playing on the game.
Right. Good. Well, that's ideal then. Yeah.
Only then I see them also. So.
Right.
You get updates from what's happening in their life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hot. Yeah. I was come over every Friday. And Callie's everybody. Oh, about what's going on not really. Yeah, she got no problem with that.
So Rainbow is really quiet, now he talks.
Oh, yeah, good.
Now she's crying for us and all those things. He's opening up more.
Good, good.
I can find out what is happening in his life when they're open.
Right, right. You want to know.
Yeah.
I didn't take one.
We have open right now? Yes, we have a mic up there. Delon, do we need to like test microphones or anything like that?
I think when people start talking, we'll get clearer.
Okay, all right.
Hello, hello.
Somebody's on. Okay.
6:35. What I was gonna say. No.
Let's begin. We have a quorum. And here's the devotional for this evening. When you pray for covenant and your fellow believers here, what do you pray for specifically? We have the covenant bond, which appears on the back of the bulletin each week. That contains some good suggestions of categories for us to pray for in terms of different areas of ministry that covenant has, and those who are leading those ministries, our pastor, elder board, deacon board, children and youth ministries, and so on. We also have the Bond to Go, published the first Sunday of the month, listing physical and other needs of individuals who have requested prayer. Each month, we are also given updated global missions prayer requests for the month. These are all helpful in reminding us of the prayer needs of our church. The Apostle Paul planted a number of churches and felt a strong responsibility to pray for them. After listing all the dangers, sufferings, and imprisonments he had experienced, he wrote, "Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all the churches." Can you imagine? We have several examples in his letters of the kinds of things he prayed for those churches. Here's how he prayed for the church in Ephesus. "For this reason, I too, having heard of the faith in the Lord Jesus, which prevails among you, and of your love for all the saints, offer never ceasing thanks on your behalf, while I make mention of you in my prayers. For I always beseech the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father most glorious, to give you a spirit of wisdom and of insight into mysteries through knowledge of him, the eyes of your heart being enlightened, so that you may know what is the hope which is his call to you inspires, what the wealth of the glory of his inheritance in the saints, and what the transcendent greatness of his power in us believers, as seen in the working of his infinite might when he displayed it in Christ by raising him from the dead, and seating him at his own right hand in the heavenly realms, high above all other government and authority and power and dominion, and every title of sovereignty used either in this age or in the age to come. God has put all things under his feet and has appointed him universal and supreme head of the church, which is his body, the completeness of him who everywhere fills the universe with himself. Weymouth translation, and you may not have heard of Mr. Weymouth, but that was a good translation, I thought. Maybe we can take a clue from Paul as we pray for each other and for our church as a whole, that our faith and love would be clearly displayed, that we would grow in wisdom and knowledge of God, that we would experience the hope that God inspires, and that his great power would be at work in our lives. The person I was going to ask to open in prayer is not here. Bob Tanquist, may I call on you, please, to open our meeting?
Thank you, Father, for the privilege of being a part of your greater kingdom here on earth. And as Paul prayed for the church in Ephesus and the other churches, his prayers echo even today for the needs and for the challenges that we have here at Covenant. I pray for your presence in each of our lives. I pray that you would give us the insight that we need in each opportunity we have to be a witness for you, that you would give us the courage and the stamina with which to use it. Thank you for the privilege of living in this great country. Thank you for the freedoms that we have and the freedoms that we see are being gradually eroded and taken from us. We pray that your hand of guidance would be upon us as a nation, that you would draw us once again back to a recognition of you as our sovereign Lord and King. Give us patience and give us wisdom, give us insights here tonight as we discuss the affairs and concerns that we have here at Covenant. I pray for the pastor, I pray for each of the people in positions of leadership. Give each one the courage and the decisiveness to act in the way that you would lead. Be with us this evening now as we look into the affairs of our church. Give us wisdom, give us patience, give us insight, and give us understanding of your will and your purposes. Pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
I hope you've picked up a copy of the minutes of our October 15th meeting. Is there a desire to have them read out loud or to dispense with the reading of the minutes?
I move we dispense with the reading out loud of the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll say.
All right. Chuck seconded. All in favor of dispensing with the verbal reading of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I'll give you a minute to look over them yourself, and then we'll vote on approving the minutes.
There were only about 10 sets of the minutes. So if you want, I will make copies of the front page. Everything else is attachments.
If you've had a chance to read the minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
All right, moved by Pastor CJ. Second?
Second.
Second by Carter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Don't be frightened by being in a minority if you feel outnumbered. All right, the minutes have been approved. We move on to the reports. The first report is the Deacon Board report.
It's always going to be very short. So to start with, I did print out a copy for the budget from January. That is there to lay out exactly where all of our funds are. Currently, the general fund is still negative at $13,551.21. And the income from January was $9,407.03. The actual breakdown is on that finance report that I printed out copies of, if anyone wants to go over it. For Friendship, we have the first Sunday luncheons, which seem to be going pretty well. We've been putting them up 3 months at a time. We'll be posting the next 3 months, probably within the next week or two. Outreach and service, we did Christmas this year, and it had a pretty low turnout, so we've actually decided as the board to discontinue that event. We're not going to do the Christmas one anymore. Pretty much in addition to our own children, we only had, I think, 6 kids show, so we're not going to move forward with that one. Our next event is Easter, which will actually be March 23rd this year. Easter's pretty early, and due to scheduling conflicts, that was the best weekend that we had. The sign up is currently behind me, but normally it's in the lobby. If you want to take home bags of eggs to fill up and bring back, that would be great. And then we also need help the day of, someone to do pancakes and stuff like that, and someone to help set up all the eggs. For facilities, the things that have been repaired, so since the last meeting, is the concrete on the sidewalk, some patchwork from the parking lot, and our emergency exit signs. Those all passed inspection, so they didn't need anything further. And we still have a list of a couple of things we're working on, such as the kids' bathroom, more issues with the parking lot, and some random wires that's on the property. Other than that, that's pretty much it from the deacons. Did you guys have any questions? Yeah.
Where are the eggs to pick up?
Oh, I'll have bags sitting out next week for everyone to grab bags and go. Anything else? All right, thanks.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is My Project USA, with CJ and Jim. Jim here?
Jim is actually on his way. I just
Okay.
got a text from Pam that they had something come up with grandkids, so he's running away. Yeah. It didn't sound like it was a serious thing.
Been
just
there.
she called it a technical difficulty. Yeah, so I don't know what that means, but can I scooch this here?
Oh, goodness, yes, I'm sorry.
That's all right. We have to be up close and personal to get everybody on the screen. So anyway, well, welcome. Thanks for being here today. I almost said this morning. So yeah, this is kind of the big discussion for the evening, and we wanted to put it early in the meeting so that basically Jess got a long ride home, and so she has to skedaddle. She'll be able to do that, but she wants to be part of that discussion. So I hope everybody's had a chance to read this letter that I emailed out, because I don't want to, I don't want to go through all of the story. Again, I don't think that needs to be rehashed. But in brief, yeah, you've read it. The Deacon Board spoke with a couple of representatives from My Project USA, and they asked about having 2 classes here at the church for Afghan refugee women, basically an ESL class, and then another class they're calling Cultural Awareness, which is something that they do. This wouldn't be the first time they've ever done either of these things, but the Cultural Awareness class, like I said, is the one that really, I thought, oh, okay, because we've seen a need for that up close and personal, in that all last summer, almost every evening, there's been a group of Afghan moms and their young kids on our property out there. And basically what we see is this: the moms, there might be 10, 12 of them, it varies, will sit down on the grass or at a table and fellowship and whatever, while their kids do whatever they feel like doing. They're completely unsupervised. So we've had to yell at kids because they're walking on the playground equipment, like on the beam where the swings hang down, walking across that. They're going up even to that higher portion where the sort of tent thing is, walking around up there, sitting on that, sliding down it, stuff like that. And, kids will be kids, but it's dangerous. And what's really even, I don't know, to me, more dangerous is that they'll be running around in the parking lot and across the drive on the way in. So I came here one night, and it was an especially busy night in terms of cars. I don't remember if SIP was having a thing or if it was an election night. Actually, I think it was an election night. I can't remember why I came. But cars were constantly in and out. And those kids, it was like the cars weren't even there. They were running, and I had to yell at them to bring them back, and then they darted across and I had to yell at them to bring them back. And it's kind of scary. Anyway, so that's basically what's going on all summer long, including some other, more annoying things like the grounds being left a mess, not cleaning up. And there were some kids that were a little bit older, adolescents maybe, I don't even know what that means, but who the Iraqi man who lives over there, one day he wanted to get my attention, and he showed me on his phone that he had taken some video of those kids stomping on our orange cones, those big cones we leave for people to practice driving. They're basically trying to destroy them. And moms are not, they're just not aware, they're not doing anything. And so the first time I talked to TAC about some of these things, he said it is a problem because I never heard about this, but a young boy was killed on Bethel Road for that reason, basically. His parents weren't paying attention, and he was just roaming and all that kind of thing. So I thought, wow, if we can do something that could help them to help those kids, then I think that's something we ought to consider. So that's kind of how this came about. We talked to the director, the founder, and this young man who introduced himself to me that I've got to know a little bit, and got to hear from them and kind of what their heart is for what they do. They do community service work, mainly in Hilltop, but in other places too, for everyone, and it is essentially a Muslim organization. It's founded by and run by mostly Muslims. I did find out that there are some Christians on the staff there. I talked to one for quite a while on the phone. And by Christians, I don't mean, in name, solid, committed believers who are on staff of this organization as well. And why do I keep doing that? I won't go into a lot of detail about that, but that is part of it. So we made this decision, the elders were aware of it, and we talked about it some. And then I sent an email out to people, I guess I am rehashing it, to folks who are involved in children's ministry, because there's always that chance that having people in the building during the week, you might come in on Sunday morning and stuff's not right, and so they needed to know, to be able to tell me so I could communicate to them and let them know that we were having some issues and need to deal with that. We got a response from those people who looked into My Project USA, looked at their website, and which we'd done, but clearly it was a Muslim organization, and so they had some concerns about having a Muslim organization. Let me be clear, the concerns are not at all, that Muslims would be in the building. That's not that happens here all the time, when we have ESL classes. It's not about that. It's about basically giving them space to do their thing and to run it themselves, and us maybe not really being aware of, how that's being run and what's being taught and things like that. Hi, Jim. And those are certainly understandable concerns. So we talked about that as a group, and just to try to understand each other and kind of where the deacon board was coming from and the elder board as well, and where folks who were concerned about this were coming from. And we decided to, we didn't necessarily decide to put the classes on hold. When I spoke with, her name is Sharon, the American Christian woman that I had a conversation with. I spoke with her before our meeting, and then I spoke with her after the meeting, and she understands why a Christian church might have some hesitation, and some concerns about this. And so her suggestion was, the classes were going to start a week or so ago, to put them on hold until April, because they'd run the classes for 2 or 3 weeks, and then there's Ramadan, and there wouldn't be any classes then. So to give us a chance to talk about it, which was what was asked of us by the church members, to talk about it tonight as a church. So where we're at now is that it is on hold, and so we're going to discuss this tonight. I don't want to, I'll put it this way. According to our building use policy, I'll read you the item that I think pertains to this. This is number 8. It says, the purpose of the event and the philosophy of the group should not conflict with covenant's programs or stated philosophy as contained in the covenant constitution. The elder board shall have final approval authority in questionable cases. So this is obviously, a questionable case. People have concerns about it. So like I said, we're not going to vote on this tonight, but the elder board just wants to get a feel for where the congregation is at, kind of as a whole. And then the elder board will take into consideration the deacon board's thoughts, the thoughts of the congregation, and decide, whether we move forward with that or not. I don't know how to put this. I want to explain a little bit why the deacon board was positive towards this, but I'm not trying to convince anybody before we share our own thoughts about it. But to us, for one thing, we saw the need for helping moms to help their kids. That was pretty clear. But even apart from that, I've always felt like our church in this neighborhood, is meant to be a light and a witness and to serve and to love our neighbors. And I think that's what we're called to do as Christians. And I'm sure we all agree with that. How you do that, though, may be complicated. So this felt to us like an opportunity to serve, and perhaps God was bringing this opportunity. And I say that because there has been an influx of Afghan refugee families right here in this neighborhood. There's a lot of them, so they're here. I've said this before, but trying to determine what God is doing is not necessarily an easy and a clear thing, right? So we can perceive it that way, and that's what we were thinking, because and so already I was approached by a couple of people, I mentioned them, who are teaching Afghan middle school and high school students to help them with school. They're transitioning to teaching adults English on a Saturday morning. But but what My Project USA is doing is just for women, and the More Hearts are doing, that's not their focus necessarily. But that was taking place. And then before, maybe kind of in the time My Project USA had come up as a potential opportunity, I was put in touch. Someone was put in touch with me, a woman whose husband is a co-pastor at Heritage Christian Church in Westerville. who has a really very strong vision for establishing a preschool for the little kids who are part of this community and others, but mainly to reach these little kids. And for her, it is about ultimately sharing the love of Jesus with the children and their families. But it's because they're here, you know? So that happened, and there was one other thing, I think, and I can't remember what it was. But you know, seeing these things kind of come together made us think, okay, maybe this is something God is doing, and you know, I think we're all fairly familiar with that concept of, you know, look for what God is doing and join Him in it. And so that's why it seemed like an appropriate thing to pursue to us, that perhaps this was the Lord bringing these things about. Yeah. So, and I know you've got questions and concerns, and so tonight we want to hear those, so we can, I don't know, kind of flesh this out. And as Bob prayed, we're seeking the Lord's leading in this. So we're not sure what that is, and so we're trying to determine what that might be. Yes, Carter.
How precisely can you speak to what My Project USA is intending on teaching in their classes in this building?
I can speak.
Was Jim gonna take,
Yeah, do you ready? Yeah. We're all set right here, and the markers are on the podium there. I can speak, you know, fairly precisely because I've talked to them about that. The English class I've been assured, is English. They're teaching English. The teacher that they've hired to teach that class is an American Christian. A real, you know, a committed Christian. Okay, so anyway, because you know, it's not like, you know, everybody who's American is a Christian. You know what I'm saying, okay? And she will be teaching English. The cultural awareness class covers a variety of things. But her name is Zurka, the woman who founded this organization. She's lived in the States for 30 years, I think, from Pakistan. And so, you know, understands what the adjustments are that women have to make to American culture. And she knows that the way they expect things to go from their understanding and how they live is very different here. So he gave me some examples. For instance, when you're living in the United States, you need to know that if your child has trouble in school and you have to go talk to somebody at school, you might very well have to talk to a male by yourself. If you have to speak to a doctor, you're going to have to talk to that person. You're going to have to get a driver's license, you know, and drive, and if you want to work, and that's, you know, all part of this. So it's things like that, and that there are different expectations for how you manage your children. So it's those kinds of things that is what that class is all about. Yeah. Is that enough? Is that probably? Yeah. Okay.
Jim, are you gonna later draw things?
Well, do you want me
Or not
to
just?
list some of those things, or?
Just the question, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I hope there's enough room to write on that. Yeah.
We can flip pages.
Okay. We want to make sure we understand, you know, we get these things right. So, so your question is, do we know what they're going to be teaching so we have an idea of what is being taught in our building, right? Yeah. Okay. And in case there's anything that we would be uncomfortable with, we would want to know that. Yeah. Yeah. TAC has assured me, because I asked him, that there's nothing religious in nature that will take place in these classes or be taught in these classes. That's what he said. Yeah.
I understand there's a mic out there somewhere, and if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, please raise your hand, and
I'll bring the mic to
John will bring the mic to you.
And we're here to talk about it, so not just questions, but comments, thoughts. You know, we want to know what people are thinking.
Marty beat you to it.
Sorry. Can you summarize what you said there's a discussion with folks in Christian Ed, right?
Right.
And I'm assuming, and maybe this is wrong, but I'm assuming they had concerns that caused this to come about. Can you summarize what those concerns were?
I'll let Nancy do that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks, Nancy.
Yeah, the three grannies were the ones that raised the concern. So we read okay, this is what some of the questions and concerns they had.
Can I say something first? Their concerns were not essentially CE concerns.
Yes.
It's a different level.
Right, we got this letter that some organization, we had no clue who it was when we looked it up.
Nancy, can I stop you for a second? I'm sorry. That reminded me of something that I really do want to say. I'm sorry, Nancy. I'll give you a chance. And that's this. So if you think you've learned something and then you don't put it into practice sometimes, did you really learn it? I feel like one of the things that I've learned as I've been pastor and a leader of a church, an organization, is how essential communication is. You have to communicate stuff. You have to let people know, the appropriate people in general, and that's come up a lot over the years. And I dropped the ball, I feel like. This is how I feel about it, in this issue of communicating that we were doing this, what it's all about. So Nancy and the three grannies who are involved in children's ministry didn't know anything about this until I sent that email out, and then they had a response to that, and I should have anticipated that, and I didn't. I just thought, okay, it sounds all right. The deacon board's on board, and I think this will be all right. And I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say I didn't have some I don't know, hesitation, because just not knowing really, what this organization is, what working with a Muslim organization on this level would be like. But I should have thought that, okay, some people will be concerned about this. We should have had this discussion before we told them that we agreed to have those classes. That's what I think. So anyway, I apologize that just sort of, dropped like a bomb. So anyway, I'm done.
Okay, we forgive you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So we wrote this letter. Thanks for letting us know about the use of the rooms for ESL and culture orientation. Their website raised some questions and concerns. The organization has many positive outreaches to the immigrant community on the West Side. According to the website, they're the largest Muslim social service organization in Ohio. On the page to recruit volunteers, they say, quote, "Together we will raise strong Muslim leaders of tomorrow," unquote. These statements raise concern as to their ultimate objective. Certainly providing ESL to the immigrants in our neighborhood is needed. By partnering with them, are we as a church involved in their mission to raise strong Muslim leaders? So how are we as a church prepared to present Jesus to them? Could you tell us more about the background of the request? And then we asked if it's possible to delay the start so everyone can discuss it at a community matters meeting. So that was basically what we wrote at the start of this, I guess.
Okay, do you want to fill out any of your concerns?
I guess that was mainly it. It seemed, I've talked to other pastors that have ESL classes and put Muslims in and I have Muslims in my classes too when I taught here. And one pastor said he would not let them use his church. Not that he wouldn't have Muslims in his church, but he would not allow an organization to use a church. Another person said that, well, you're going to have to sanitize your church, get rid of your Bibles and everything else. If it's just in a library, I don't think we have to do that kind of stuff. But some other people had concerns about it. But I think when we had our discussion with the elders and the deacons, they heard us out. They gave some answers. And I guess Any of the grannies want to make any comments? Does everyone know who the three grannies are?
Nancy, do you feel like you did get an idea of how it came about and what it's all about?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
interesting
okay.
to know how it all happened and what the thoughts were and about the programs that they wanted to start. I think maybe it was in your original letter, you said it'd be a trial period or something like that.
Not necessarily, but
Okay.
it could be, yeah.
Okay.
It could be, yeah.
All right, well, anyway.
As a result of that meeting, we did discuss some possibilities of how to manage it.
Right,
You know,
right, yeah.
yeah, for instance, to make sure we have at least somebody, a representative from the church here when they're here. Some things like that, yeah.
I think we have questions. I have a question about, one of the emails said something about they had a grant or something to start this program or help this program. Is there anything like that involved on their part as having a grant to do this program?
That's what Sharon told me, that, yeah, that they'd gotten a grant. I don't know if it was for specifically these classes, but to help support these Afghan families that have come into our community, yeah. And the reason that TAC showed up that day that he came was because he knew, and when Zerka came and spoke to Deacon Board, because they know that there's a need here, specifically for those families.
Do you know who the funding agency for if there is a grant, do you know who the funder is?
I do not, no.
Be interested in knowing that.
Yeah.
Should we be concerned that grant money would require certain minimums of the facility? And if so, who's going to pay for that?
Right. Actually, that question comes up with the whole preschool idea. That's huge, and yeah, we're not down the road on that. But I don't know if we should be. That's a good question, Chuck. I don't know if we should, but TAC has, looked at the space. I mean, I showed him the classrooms that would be available, and to him, everything looks good. I imagine it's. It's not that much different from, if we were holding an ESL class. I mean, we're just talking about some people gathering in the library, and on the cultural awareness night, kids will be here. So, and they'll provide supervision for the kids. Yeah, right now that hits me as, I wonder what that's going to be like. But anyway, we don't have to provide that. But according to him, they're good to go. Yeah.
Microphone, please.
Which brings up the question of liability insurance.
Yeah, but that's a question we've never raised when the what are they called? The Columbus Literacy Council was doing ESL here 2 nights a week.
And they would have kids here?
No, they didn't have kids here. Pardon me?
They weren't supposed to.
They weren't supposed to. Yes, there may have been some from time to time, yeah.
By default.
Yeah. And we've had other groups.
Nancy taught, had kids here on occasion.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Davidson.
I mean, I don't see how that's any different really from what happens on a Sunday morning. So that's why it wouldn't cross my mind that liability, insurance and all that ought to be.
Yeah, but I see a distinction between, we who own the building, having our kids in here or kids we invite here and we're in charge, as opposed to having an outside organization running things in our building.
Well, that's a distinction that ought to be figured out.
I'd feel more comfortable once that is cleared up.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I have a question that will just, if we were present as a group of nominal Christians in a Muslim country and we're asking to use Muslim-controlled facilities, they would have some very definite ground rules for us to abide by. So wouldn't it be appropriate for us to have a time of orientation for them, explaining the difference between Christianity and Islam, and what our cultural requirements as Christians are, and that we would expect them to observe, not to observe to the extent of being converted.
Right.
We would like them to be, but the purpose of being here is not to deliberately be exposed to conversion.
Right.
That they should understand what the purposes of different parts of our building are, and what the purposes of our library is, and the books that are in the pew racks.
Yeah.
And the regard that we have for them, and that we would expect them to respect our regard, not necessarily to regard them in the same way that we do, but to respect the environment in which they are living, in which they are being allowed to.
Right. So, so you're saying it would be wise to have some clear understanding of those issues between us and them.
Yes,
That-
and
yeah.
perhaps a time of orientation or an explanation of the principles of Christianity.
Right.
And not to criticize Islam, but just to explain what our beliefs as Christians are and why we have them.
Yeah. Okay.
And why, and how this facility is dedicated to the purpose of that.
Right. Okay.
So there would be a clear understanding.
Yes.
Among the individuals as well as among the leadership which they present.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I have another question, but it's more for Beth than, how is, Barton, how does the school district deal with the influx of these students? With their cultural difference?
Well, we do certain things like we don't serve pork anymore in the schools. I don't know how long that's been, but I know it's been for a long time.
Could you use the mic, please?
Oh,
Yeah, sorry. I know, I think.
Oh.
We might be stuck.
I just said that the schools like don't serve pork anymore, but I don't know how long that's been. That might have been for 30 years or whatever. Oh, sorry. I don't know, like at our preschool level, we don't have anything, like we don't have ESL for our kids. That doesn't start till kindergarten. I don't really know.
Can Jason speak to this?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
From the older group?
Yeah.
I know that there's a welcome center in the district for new students where they're in ESL from different cultures, different countries. They go there first. And then after they go through that, they either decide to keep them in the internet, there's like the international school, or they can go to the neighborhood schools from there. So during the welcome center, I think the guy told me it was a 4-week course of acclimation. I know that I've had a lot of Muslim students come to me in my classes, and it's just, you're a student, you come in, you do work or don't, and then you do on. So.
But they provide like 4 weeks of orientation.
I think he said it's about 4 weeks. Like I got to talk to one of the guys who worked at the Welcome Center previously. I think they're either shut it down or they are combining it with the global school now. So they're trying to combine them.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jason.
I can give it to you. There's plenty of cord.
Okay, can you hear me? Sorry. So I just have a couple of questions. I'll just say them at one time.
Okay.
All right.
Hope I can remember them at all.
So I'm just gonna read off of this because
how would classes 1 to 2 times a week prevent the kids /damage /mess /safety issues addressed? Are we assuming that the women on our property would come to those classes? And I'm asking this, please hear it fully respectfully.
Yep.
Why are we unable to address the park issues with the women and the children?
The issue, what happens out there? Yeah.
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 And if they don't speak English, or if we need to talk to the men, it bothers me that we can't address that ourselves. Relying on another organization to address the issue. Again, I'm understanding that I don't totally understand the situation, but that's just a question. I have one other thing.
Okay.
I noticed, I was looking at some of their newsletters, and I noticed that Covenant is listed as a partner on a few of their newsletters.
Oh, okay.
And I'm
like on their website?
On their website.
There's a separate thing that I found that's a newsletter that they put out a couple of times a month.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, optics wise, in the community, are we okay visually being listed as a partner with a Muslim organization?
Right.
So that's several things.
Okay, I can't remember the first one.
How would the
yeah.
So
okay.
it was brought up that obviously there's an issue with children running in the street and damage and mess left. And from what it sounds like to me, the idea is, in the perfect situation, these women would come to these classes, learn that behavior is not appropriate, respect our property, watch our kids.
Right.
But there are several leaps of assuming in that situation that they would come, that they would
make a
listen.
difference, yeah.
And then I'm wondering, like, the classes would be once a week, right? For English, and once a week for the cultural. And I'm just the idea of, like, if they'd be safer inside, but really that's 2 days max a week for a couple hours. And I'm assuming there's a lot of assuming going on, but that they would probably still be outside during the rest of the time.
Those are really good questions.
So, sorry.
Yeah. I thought about that. We talked about that. You're right. And ideally, the perfect scenario is that the people who need it would come and would respond, appropriately. But, 1 class a week to change things that are culturally ingrained, I don't know. I mean, that is kind of an open question. But that's what it's for. That's what it's meant to do, is to help them. And I think, and from our point of view, it's not just about what we see here. It is also just about serving these people who are here. And they do have that need. To be successful in the United States, there are things you have to learn how to, about the United States. And one of the things that I saw on their website is that they really want to help immigrants to acculturate and to understand and adopt the values of the United States of America. So that's a need. Whether that makes a concrete difference that we can see in our particular situation, I don't know. That would remain to be seen. But I still think it's something that does meet a need that's in our community, that we could be a part of. In terms of us meeting the need, a couple of attempts have been made. I spoke with Mark and Marianne Morehart is the couple that does the weekly homework help, we'll call it that, and it's going to become English. And so before My Project USA even came up, when we were kind of frustrated with what was going on, I spoke to him, and he tried to get contact that he has who speaks English and Pashto, I think it is, to come talk to them, and who agreed to do it, but it just never worked out. Now he and Marianne did come a couple of evenings, and you know what they did? They just basically struck up relationships with these folks. They invited them to eat with them. The Afghans invited these 2 Americans to eat with them, and they communicated through the children. And you know, so there might be opportunities for that kind of connection, but that requires a huge commitment. Whether we have the time, the people, the energy to invest in that way, I don't know. But the other thing is we don't have the cultural background, or probably the, what would you call it? Not the authority.
Trust?
The trust, yeah, to speak into those, you know, to those things that they need. I mean, we can, I assume we could probably somehow say, look, if you're not gonna watch your kids, you can't come here. But that goes against our values. We've always wanted to welcome people onto our space and let them use that. And we've talked about it and prayed about it, how to connect with people. And it's a very difficult thing. So yeah, could we do it ourselves? Maybe, but I'm not sure what that would look like. But you know, there might be a way. And what was the other?
Some signs.
We did put up a couple of some papers in the kiosk that said, you're welcome here, we're glad you're here. Please supervise your kids at all times. And I don't know if it said clean up after yourselves or not.
There's a basic things like that.
Basic things like that.
But if you don't read English.
No, it's in 4 or 5 languages, yeah. We didn't want to single out anybody, so it's in Pashto and Spanish and Russian and a couple, something else. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's out there. By the end, it didn't seem to have made much of a difference. But, you know, it's just 2 pieces of paper on that kiosk, whether anybody even looks at it or not, I don't know. So this organization has experience doing this, and they're equipped for it. So if there's a chance that it could make a difference in these women's and these families' lives, they got a better chance of, I think, of having an impact than we would. But that's just, you know, my thought. And there's one other thing.
Our church being listed as a partner.
Oh, yeah. Boy, that's you know.
Yeah, you might want to write that down.
Yeah, it is, yeah, your concern is, what does that look like, right? Yeah, to others or even to us, to be listed as a partner with this a Muslim community outreach organization. That's, you know, there's a lot of verbiage on their website and all that kind of stuff. You know, to be totally honest, I'm a little uneasy with that, and I'm not quite sure what to do with it. I feel okay with partnering for these 2 specific things. Well, then there's the clothing bins out there too. That was part of their thing. To just to the English class and the cultural awareness class, but there's this part of me that I'm not sure I want to be, you know, our church to be publicly associated with the whole shooting match. So what does that mean? You know, I don't know. I haven't totally sorted that out. But I would respectfully request that we not be listed as a partner on their flyers or on their website or whatnot. Just because we don't know what that's going to communicate to other people. And it might not be a positive association for a lot of the people that, you know, that we, yeah. Anyway, does that make sense? Yeah.
Jessica.
That's a good question.
So with the being associated, on some level, we're going to have to be, because people taking the classes have to be able to find us.
Yeah.
So we, on some level, are going to have, if we move forward with it, we're going to have to be on there, be listed in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
My other comment was just in regards to like us approaching them.
speaking as a mom, there's a big difference between a person coming up to me and saying, you are a bad parent, control your children, and an organization being like, let me teach you how to parent in the United States. Because at least what I took away from their meeting with us was, yes, they call it a culture class, but it really came down to teaching them how to parent in the US. And a big part of that is, we don't have the it takes a village to raise a child mentality here. We are very much a, that is your child, you take care of it, you are responsible for it. And they don't come from that. They come from a culture where everyone watches your kids and you can let them run the neighborhood and know they'll be safe. We're not lucky enough to have that here. So I think that that plays a big role too, in that when we're approaching them and saying, hey, your child's not safe, they're just kind of like, who are you to tell me what to do with my kid? Where when this group comes in and it's people that, it's an organization that they trust, is telling them, hey, this is how you can parent in the United States. You can't count on other people to make sure your child is safe. It really comes down to you. And I think that that's going to play a large role in this. That was kind of how I took the presentation is, yes, it's teaching them how to live in the US, but it's also teaching them that parenting styles are very different here. And what used to be safe for you no longer is. You can't let your kid run around Bethel Avenue, you know, or even run around our parking lot. Like, someone needs to constantly be watching your kid to make sure they're safe. And I think that that's a big part of what they wanted to accomplish. And they saw our park and they saw our setup. And honestly, it was one of those that everyone kept praying for something to happen to help us. And then this organization shows up and is like, guess what we want to do? And it was a chance to potentially offer us that help that we've been praying for a while now. I mean, I know just with a few times with DBS, we had them running in, grabbing fruit and things like that from our stuff. And we're standing here going, I don't care, have an apple. But the parents are like, no, you can't be here, we gotta go. But we couldn't even communicate with them to say, we don't care that they're taking an apple, but you need to know where your kid is. And it wasn't until we went out and said, hey, we have a child, that they even realized the kid was not there anymore. So it was not a good situation, because then we're all standing there going, random child in our lobby, who does it belong to? And no one even knew the kid was missing. So it was that type of situation that also kind of solidified in my mind that there needs to be something to bridge the gap between, I don't want to say us and them, but that's kind of what it is. We need a gap, someone to bridge that gap. And it sounds like this organization was a possibility.
Thanks.
Thank you. You said it. Last spring, summer, and autumn, I would leave my office hours knowing that there was a potential for a child to be killed. I don't want to go through that starting in March, April. I mean, it was really bad. And the note of liability in the building, it's liability outside that really I lost sleep over. It was really dangerous. And I knew all that. I was nice. I cleaned up, in the mornings, just trash that area. I tried to interact with kindness and respect, but I knew that what was coming from me is, this is really bad parenting, shape up or take your kids home. And I didn't want that to come out, but really bad American parenting. And I just was up to here. I need to see that we have skilled people who can bridge that gap, if for no other reason than for the safety of children. The children are counting on, well, they don't know they're counting on protection, but that's the nature of being a child. Something else. Having our logo and our name on the print publications and on the website, that really jarred me too, because logos and such are supposed to come through me or through the church, through CJ. I think they just lift that off of the web, off of a page or something. I was like, how did they get this? They never asked us if they could do that. And then there it was. And there again, I was like, it went too fast. And it was not in partnership. So other problems could come up where things are not in sync. But then I come back to the sake of the children. And if immigrants see that a Christian church, a Christian congregation cares about their children, that's going to speak volumes. Ellen and Pete Van Dyne put up the signs along the driveway saying, slow, be careful, children playing. Anything that we do that shows we care about their children. The Christian God cares about children. Okay, it's one of those really early steps in being able to reach a point where they want to hear who the Christian God is and what Christianity is about.
Thanks, John.
Mm-hmm.
As we mentioned that the lady was coming here is involved in politics. Are we going to be part of it? Did you investigate or did you see in the website she's running for a Senate, right?
Congress.
Yeah.
State
Congress, yeah.
Congress?
Yes.
I didn't
We told
see
you
that,
at the
but I was
meeting.
told that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder whether you investigate, are we going to be part of it, on
Yeah.
taking sides?
Right. I understand that concern. I mean, it makes things more complicated. Yeah, but apparently, the Zerka, the founder, is running for office, like United States Congress?
Yeah, US Congress.
US Congress, yeah. I didn't know that until, maybe that was, you brought it up at the meeting.
You know what, this one.
She's on TV sometimes, you see her when they're talking about.
Right.
I'm not sure if I.
Legal talk or
what it is.
whatever.
I'll tell you in a second.
They breach his,
Yeah,
they
tell-
decide she's no longer, it's, maybe 15, I'm not sure.
It's not against baby.
No, it isn't. I think
It's in the Democratic Party, so I'm
But
not
they
sure.
redistricted.
Okay,
So-
yeah, but against Mike Carey, maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
I just have a brief comment about signs
Oh.
on the kiosk and so forth. I think some of these
Hold it
people
close to your mouth,
have
please.
never learned English or never learned their own language. They can't read their own language.
Oh.
And so they can't read,
The sign.
they can't read the signs.
Okay. I hadn't thought about that.
Picture sign.
Yeah, picture signs.
On that note, have we considered using My Project USA to communicate to these people that, okay, I grew up in Sri Lanka, and playing in traffic, destroying someone else's property, and leaving trash are global. You don't need cultural diversity classes to learn that. And, there are enough women that sit there, I've seen them out there, that at least one person can have an eye on the kids, right? Have we considered using this organization to communicate to them that this is what you need to do when you're here? Or has that come up?
It did.
Oh, they did?
It came up at our deacon meeting with them.
Oh, I know.
And because they said that was one of the ways they wanted to get them to the class, was to have someone here to go and interact with them when they were all out there during the spring and summer.
Does that need to be a class, or is that you tell them? And I mean, Jessica summed it all up in like one, right?
Right.
It's like, don't leave trash, don't play in traffic. And I mean, I don't want to sound callous, but
Right.
that's just basic. Like every country in the world practices some of that.
And they were hoping the basic stuff of that would be enough to get them, because it's not, like, yes, that's the basic stuff.
There's a lot of American stuff to learn, obviously.
There's a lot to learn,
Being
yeah.
a woman here is different, but the basics of being safe in our compound, that I don't think takes a whole class. We can start with that, right?
Right,
So-
yeah.
And from what I gathered, that was kind of gonna be their way of introducing themselves, was, hey, we see that you're here, we see that your children are here, can we talk about this? Oh, PS, now that I've told you don't let your kid play in traffic, we have this class that also talks about how to interact with men, and that you may have to talk to a male doctor or a male principal, and kind of using the safety of their kids to kind of start that conversation on bigger things.
I hadn't considered what your.
Yeah, to me, it's like, it's pretty
the
basic.
question you're raising, yeah.
I mean, I've had kids run in front of my car driving here on the option, so I know.
Right.
It is, I mean, what Joanne's saying is real, like,
Yeah.
it could be one of us hitting one.
Yes, yeah, definitely, yeah. It is real, yeah, it's scary, yeah. I think Marty's got the.
Yeah, just a kind of an inverse thought. I've heard people say the comment tonight. What would it say if we're on their website as a partner? And I get that thought, but I'm not sure. One question I have is, who is that saying that to, and what is that saying? Who's the person that we're worried we're going to make mad if that's there? You know, I don't know who that is, to be honest with you. I'm not sure who's going to see that and say, oh, this is a terrible thing. I'm not sure who we're pleasing there or unpleasing. That's just one thought.
Right.
The other thought that I had is, and it's the inverse, is what does that say to our community if we have an opportunity to do something positive and we don't do it? So what does that, I mean, there's an inverse there, and we need to think about that, right?
Yep. What message is that send?
Yeah.
Thank you. Chuck, did you have something you want to say?
I guess the bottom line is, this group wants to use our facility. So we say, okay, you can use the facility, but here are the rules that you have to follow to use the facility. If those aren't followed, then you're no longer welcome.
That's one way to look at it. Yeah. I think that may ultimately be how it's.
That's the bottom line
Right.
of what should be done, how we should handle it.
Okay, thanks.
It's the 16th and 15th district, she has no chance.
Anybody else?
This just about safety. Is there some way to put like some kind of a fence between the driveway and the grounds there? So
They'll just climb on it.
kids, at least they wouldn't run out. Okay.
Yeah.
And see what happens with the preschool.
I heard if we have a preschool, they'll have to have a fenced-in area.
Well,
But anyway.
I mean, the bigger problem is, that it's been going on here for years, is if we let the facility next door use our driveway and parking lot, and they don't use it respectfully either. They speed in and out here.
Yeah, that's part of the problem. That is a problem. Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the overall.
Right. We did talk about putting in a couple of, I think you can get portable speed bumps.
I hate speed.
I hate them too. I hate them so bad.
Put a big gate out there.
Well.
With barbed wire.
With a code.
Yeah.
With a what?
With a code, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Steve?
There you go.
I have a sense that a lot of our concerns are in many ways defensive. How can we protect ourselves and minimize risk? what are ways that this can create opportunities for us to make friends? And through making friends, expose people to the gospel.
While you're waiting on the microphone, personally, if we decide not to move forward with it, to me, one of the biggest downsides is going to be that I won't. My relationship with TAC has been, I don't know, I just see potential for a relationship there. I've really enjoyed getting to know him a little bit. He's got a couple of young kids and easy guy to talk to. And I don't have a friendship or a contact like that with a Muslim person. But it would be an opportunity to have that. You know, and the only way you have potential, you know, for a friendship or a relationship with, you know, just say Muslim people is to interact with them. And this is an opportunity for that as well.
A big one for me is when these courses are taking place, it'll also be when we are prepping for VBS, which means that not only will Erica and I and a few others be in the building and potentially be able to interact, so will our children. And I think that's huge. Like our kids would be here and potentially getting to interact with their children as well. And whatever kind of relationship can come from that can always be beneficial as well.
When you entered into this agreement with them using our facility, were there any rules put in place for them to follow at that time?
Not necessarily like written down rules, but in conversation. Nothing of a religious nature is to take place.
That being said, having worked in business for many years, you never go into an agreement without everything being spelled out prior to entering the agreement. So, that being said, I think we need to set some rules and lovingly, not preaching, but lovingly.
Right.
Let them understand that the way things are in the United States are a little different, and so these are the rules.
Yeah. Okay.
May I follow up on that? That brings to mind the building use policy, which I haven't read lately. I think I have a copy, but they would sign a building use policy, so what rules would they be aware of through that? What rules might we need to add based on the specific situation?
Right. That might be the way to do that. Yeah.
I think Ellen has a priority first. Ellen, here. Right there.
I was not looking to it. Yeah.
The prayer request update from the Saxes that came in was in the bulletin a couple of weeks ago. They are working with Afghanis in St. Cloud. But I just want to read the second paragraph. God is doing a new work among Afghan in our country and around the world. Many are beginning to follow Christ and churches are forming. Please pray with us that we would also see some of our Afghan friends here embrace Jesus. The encouraging fact is that all the Afghans in St. Cloud are already in friendship with followers of Jesus. Pray with us not only for some to embrace Jesus, but also that an ethnic church would be raised up here. It's another perspective.
I'd like to share a thought, if I could, just briefly. One issue that was raised a little earlier was about will the women come? Are they open to this? And if you've ever moved into a new neighborhood or gone to a new country, you recognize that if you're the new person on the block and you have to make adjustments, you're probably at your peak learning curve. So I suspect that's going to be the same for them because they've got nowhere else to go.
It's up like old man.
Yeah, 61, yeah, getting up and down is harder every year.
So, what are we expected to do to make, are we expected to make a decision tonight to make a,
No, like.
This is informational.
It's informational, yeah. And so the elder board who will make the decision is positive. Well, we haven't had any input from Bob Duddleston. But those of us who've been involved in these conversations are for moving forward, at least we have been up until this point. However, if making that decision is going to put too much tension on the church, then that wouldn't be a wise thing to do for us as a church. It's hard because, you know, it is. I mean, we do see this as an opportunity. It is outreach. It's an opportunity to connect with people, to fulfill, you know, in part our mission to reach our neighbors, at least on some level. And it feels like this might be an opportunity that God is bringing us. However, if the resistance, if there is resistance to a level that it seems unwise in terms of our unity as a church, then we would conclude that that's not the direction that we should go. So we're trying to get a feel, you know, and kind of take the temperature of the congregation. Is that right, Steve? Carter? I mean, yeah? Am I?
Yeah.
Okay.
My question is, what he is writing on the board up there now, the word liabilities struck me. Is this something that we should be discussing with the agent, the insurance agent who handles our liability policy here as to what extent are we covered? For example, you described crawling across the top of the bar that the swings were extended from and walking on it. And I can see as a little kid that would be fun to do.
That would be a lot.
But it wouldn't take much of a slip to have quite a fall and to have an injury. And then who is responsible for the injury?
Right.
Do we have an attractive nuisance, or was it negligence on the part of the parent for not supervising his child?
Those are questions that should be answered anyway.
Yes, so we should have a conference perhaps with the liability people that we are dealing with.
Yeah, well, we'll do that. Yeah, we'll do that.
And those questions aren't only related to Muslims.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Anybody.
in the neighborhood that comes and uses the facility.
Right. No, that's true. It pertains to all use. Yeah. We were covered, you know, like when we had Upward Soccer, that was, you know, fell under our coverage policy, you know, that I can't remember how it was all spelled out, but that was okay. But this is a different thing. Yeah. Oh, there it is.
I don't want to see our church give up on this opportunity that we have in this neighborhood. I think that if we can work something out. My comment was not to put a damper on anything. My comment was, we just need a set of rules. They need to understand. We have to put, you know, start enforcing a few rules on the property for the safety of everyone. This is an opportunity to connect with love, and I know it's possible. I know it's possible, I've experienced it in my work. And when you think you can't go forward, you need to stop and listen to God. Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
So Rachel brought this question up earlier. Are we still part of Converge?
Oh, yes.
So have we considered bringing this question to them? And the other thing is, what would the semantics be of us being a partner with a Muslim organization and a partner with Converge? Would they be okay with that?
That's a good question. Yeah. That's a good question.
Because they might have something to say about that, right? And they might actually give us some insight into how we should proceed, maybe, or at least give us some direction.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's a good suggestion.
She brought it up, so.
Yeah. I'd like to wrap, it's almost 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we'll let Nancy speak and then I think we'll wrap it up.
When we had our little discussion the other day, one thing we brought up was how long are these classes going to be for? Like, is it forever and ever? They're going to teach them how to parent.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a forever job. Or, or is it like 2 or 3 months? Or like for the English classes, a trial period for a certain period of time. That might be something to consider.
Right.
Ideally, we would have teachers from our church doing this,
Ideally,
and I tried it too.
Right.
But I don't think we can be too idealistic because not too many people from a church are willing to come teach English here.
Right.
And if it's a Christian that's teaching, I think that's great for that part of the program. And I think they do need someone from their culture to give some training to the kids. But I think if we give them those rooms to use, I don't think they have to come in here and the rest of the building. So some of those guidelines, especially if they have kids, like our kids like to run around the church. So we have to expect whenever you have two cultures coming together, there's going to be problems.
Right.
So we have to accept that.
Yeah,
too.
that's right. If we move forward, there will be issues.
Yeah, there's
to
going
work
to be
out.
issues
Yeah.
that
But-
comes with it. But
But to have some
hopefully
understandings
that
that are
there
clear on
are
the front.
enough people that can relate to them because most of us aren't here during the week.
Right. Yeah.
And they're just going to be here a couple of days.
Yeah.
I mean, some people in New York.
Okay. All right.
Okay, well, thank you for
Yeah.
letting us speak.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Let's see how much stamina CJ has. He's been standing up there for a while now. It's his turn to give the pastor's report.
Oh, did I bring that? Oh, shoot. No, I'm fine. I intentionally tried to keep it short because I knew that that discussion might take some time. And I mean, you've got it here, so I don't need to say a whole lot. But I always want to say something about the sermon series because that's such a large part of what I do. And I have that in quotes. I never know where a sermon series is going to lead until it unfolds before me. I said that last meeting, and I say that every time. And it's it's funny, I said this morning that Christian life isn't necessarily an adventure, but preaching kind of is. Because it's just, when I thought Galatians, I thought, well, I mean, it's kind of one message, and it sort of is, but I don't know. Every time I get into something new, I feel like God just opens my understanding up in ways that I just didn't foresee. So I'm really enjoying it, doing Galatians, so I'm appreciative for that. In disciple-making culture, I'll say a little bit about that. I'm still meeting with an individual every week. Trying to get my triad restarted with Chuck and Scott, and I'm looking forward to that, but I need to get on it. The one thing that really is, it's interesting how it's like there's been a surge in interest and resources for disciple making. I don't know how, the last 10, 15 years maybe, it's just become more and more of a thing, but even right here in Columbus, a bunch of navigators who are involved in that. I'm in a pastors group, and we meet every 2 or 3 months. There's probably anywhere from 15 to 20 of us there who really want to get traction on disciple making in our churches. So we're talking about that. There's a luncheon that's every month. And last week, I went to the lead team meeting, which is Central Ohio Converge Pastors, which it's not just Columbus. You know, we met in Loudonville, and there was guys from Cincinnati there. And I heard about something that I didn't know much about, but it's part of Converge called the Timothy Initiative, which is about making disciples who make disciples, which is what this is supposed to be about. And the guy told a story of how what they're doing in Togo, in West Africa, is, I mean, they're on fire. People are becoming Christians and being trained. I mean, it's a real solid program. And their goal is to start a church in every village in Togo. And now they've come together with both Converge and Cru and another 15 or so organizations, and they have stacks of manuals or whatever that they're aware of every village in the world, every village or neighborhood in the world, and they want to plant the church in every village in the world. And they've got that kind of mapped out. And it's like, God is using this to, I was floored to hear this guy's story. And it flows out of this thing called the Timothy Initiative. And they have resources that we could use. And anyway, there's a lot going on. For us, on the elder board, we're praying and we are seeking disciple-making relationships that we're wanting God to connect us with people who want, one-on-one or triad type discipling, because that's what we're called to do. So that's what we're moving towards, and we're going to keep praying for that and working on that and hoping that God raises some of that up. I want to talk about the worship service. I've got some feedback from a handful of people about aspects of the worship service, mainly communion and the offering, which those are things that I have been thinking about, how to make communion more meaningful. I want to work on that. And also, we've talked about it some on the elder board. An offering is worship. It is a part of worship. It's not something we just donate to the church. And that hasn't really been a part of our worship service in so long. The thing is about that, I mean, you might be thinking, oh, well, let's just, we can start taking an offering again. That's more complicated than you think. You have to have the people, you have to kind of organize it. And since COVID, that's just been much more challenging. But I feel like we need to do something to make the offering more of a central part, not more of, because it's not now, unless one of us remembers to say, oh, we've got plates here. And that's not, God is more worthy than, hey, if you brought an offering, put it in the plate back there. So now that I've said it, I need to do something about it. So anyway, and there's a couple of things going on that just kind of have my head spinning. There's been a lot of requests to use the building lately. One is My Project USA. The other is, I don't know if you know much about this, but there's a woman from Heritage Church who has this vision for a preschool, and it's a big vision, and it's pretty exciting, and she would love to have that preschool here because this is where the need is, and she wants that to be a part of outreach to these communities. But man, that's something that's going to require a lot of, if you think My Project USA this is on a larger scale than that. So we're going to set up a meeting soon with her and her board, with Deacon Board and folks who are involved in children's ministry, if they want to be part of that, to discuss what it would look like. From her end, what she needs, from our end, what we need, to see if we're going to pursue that. So that's a big thing. And Joanne said that somebody approached the church about renting our grass for lacrosse and soccer practice.
People in the Ambassadors for Christ Indian Church.
That Indian church.
Here a week or so ago.
Right, they're meeting in March too, right?
They did last year. They didn't ask for March
Okay.
this year.
All right, yeah. So that's another thing. Oh, and the other thing is this. Rich and Janet Mendola, Rich from IFI, a year or so ago, they asked about using our sanctuary for what's essentially like a small church. It's a fellowship, they call it. They meet in their home. And so we talked all that out and kind of hashed out some details. And then they decided they weren't quite ready to make that move yet. Well, Rich kind of emailed me out of the blue last week and said, we're ready. So they might want to start meeting here in March. All of these are, they're interesting and they're good opportunities. And some of them are potential sources for income, which we need that. I mean, we do. So it's one way to see some of that happen. But it's like, I'm kind of like, oh, wait, it's a lot of spinning plates. And then it's been so weird. Last 2 or 3 weeks, and then even on into the future, it's like people are coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, can we get together? Some of it's personal, some of it's, other ministry related. John Rudabaugh said, hey, we haven't talked in a while. Well, yeah, I'd love to do that. How about 3 weeks from now? And so it's, anyway, that's just something that's been going on. And it just balancing all that has been a little bit stressful. So anyway, yeah, and that's all I feel like I really need to talk about, not this morning, tonight. Yeah, any questions or anything?
Is the preschool associated with My Project USA? Or?
Not at all.
Okay.
Two
Because
totally
you mentioned
separate
another
things.
preschool, right? Or
What's that?
You mentioned a preschool when you were talking about that, so.
Yeah, you're right,
That's a different one?
I did, yeah.
No, it's not a different one. He just mixed the two up.
Yeah. I will say though that Lynn, who's the preschool director, has talked with TAC about whether he thinks there's a need, and he doesn't think there's a need, but they're not associated at all. Yeah. And like I said, she's a believer, and it's a ministry to her. But if we did go down that road, we would make some changes to the building. Yeah, anyway. So it raises a lot of questions. So I don't know. I'm not sure where it's going to go. So we'll see. Yeah. But yeah, good question. Thanks for that. Needed to be clarified.
Thank you.
All right.
Next is the Elder Board report.
Well, the Elder Board continues to do a number of things the same, so there's some repetition here. We continue to meet about every 2 weeks, usually via Zoom as our schedules allow. We continue to go through prayer slips, pray through them. I remind you all of prayer chain as available through the elders, the church office, our groups.io. We often receive prayer requests and add them to our prayer sheets when we meet. Other opportunities for prayer are, of course, first Sundays at 9:30. Next Sunday, I believe it's the first Sunday in March, so you're all invited to join us for prayer that morning. Elder Phlox refers to the congregation divided among us for whom we pray as well. Ministry of the Word. CJ's message is Galatians, great chapter. That's a personal opinion, but I hope I don't have too much argument on that. Pastor CJ has just given his report. Growth Classes is also in Galatians. I was interested to note that Growth Class and then his message covered the precise same verses today. So fascinating correlation there. I wanted to mention that the Elder Board is grateful for the services of the Growth Class Committee that every trimester, and if I have this right, it's Bob Sorley, Marty Rosensteel, and Pastor CJ. Is there anyone else on the Growth Class Committee? Oh, that's it. That's a really
mainly Bob.
Mainly Bob.
Mainly Bob. But yeah, Bob's the one who orders the study guides. And so we continue to be grateful for their efforts on our behalf. Promoting disciple making, Jim held his Reading the Bible with a Friend workshop on January 14th. It was well attended. We continue to pray, discuss, and look for opportunities for follow through, as Pastor CJ has already mentioned. Keeping in touch, we continue to keep in touch with our disciple making initiatives through Jim and CJ. CJ attends the deacon board meetings. We are on the email list for the minutes of the meetings. And we give opportunity for those elders who are involved in disciple making, deacon board, and the CYM ministry to give a report every time we meet. Steve will give a CYM report tonight. Board retreats done recently, but we did attend the Jim's workshop. We are grateful that Christabel David and Nancy Sorby have served a second year as members of our nominating committee. Thank you very much. Hear, hear. And their slated candidates will be presented for your vote tonight under new business. Any comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Oh, that's right. You.
Lovell Ministries.
Okay, the Global Ministry Report. If anybody doesn't know about our missionaries, well, this is actually January last year, but I have a list of missionaries, what countries, what mission board they're with and stuff. I can put it on back table and hand it to you if you're interested. Yeah, I listed them here. And we try to print up a prayer list every month when they have prayer time, stuff I take from the letters that I get from missionaries or make up something and stuff. And then because of the war in Sudan, Yasser has had a lot of moving around and living in another country. I think they decided to stay in Egypt now and do ministry there. So we took a special offering for him in the summer when he was here. And then our money that we raised for our Christmas gifts, thanks everybody for your generosity. We found out there are $300 from last year. It wasn't sent, so we added that to this year. So we came out with a nice sum of $1,208. Nice. So besides the $100 that we sent to our the regular missionaries, we sent the excess to Yasser to help his family. Oh. They're putting their kids in a private school in Egypt and things like that. So they really need some financial help. So thank you for everybody for your generosity. It really worked out to have that extra money this year. The Lord needed it, then we needed it, I guess, this year. Okay, and I reported the other week that we had 28 Christmas boxes. So that's more than families, more than one for each family. So some families did more. I think Carol, her daughter, did a box, and some other families did more than one. So that was really great. We had the day of prayer for the persecuted church. We had for our mission moments for last year, we had Jim and Tracy and Yasser. We never know when Yasser's going to come in to the States. In the summer, and some Sunday he'll pop up here. Yep. So, and this year we had the Goldmans come, and then I gave a report on the Christmas shoe boxes. George Bellis is going to send us a video so we can see what he's up to. Jason Pinchinat's supposed to come in April, and Lisa's going to be here this summer. So we'll get some live reports from them. So the mission committee, Bob Tanquist, Ruth Tolson, me, and Ellen is our representative from Deacon Board. So we would like to recruit some younger blood. So if you're interested in what we're doing, if you'd like to take on the project of shoe boxes or something like that, talk to us. we'd be glad to get your input. And we thank Joanne for faithfully putting stuff in the bulletin, printing up the missionary letters that we get, and keeping us in touch with what's going on there. So thanks for your great financial support for our missionaries.
Thanks, Nancy.
Any questions?
CYM.
There's been good and steady progress over the last year with regard to CYM. I can see 5 or 6 people here in the audience, mostly women, who have been involved in helping with the Noah's Kids, and I've appreciated how much they've done. And Nancy, thank you especially for working out the lessons that everybody can use with minimal extra preparation on their own. So after COVID getting started again, I think we've become a lot more stable, and I'm very pleased with that. Let me offer 3 things. It's the half sheet. Let me offer 3 things to be concerned about. If we hadn't talked about my project tonight, I was going to push to talk about Sunday school for the fall. And right at the moment, it's real tough to figure out how we can have Sunday school for the fall for the kids. Just haven't got the horsepower to do it. And 1 hour a week is not enough for the church to be providing for our kids. And if you've got suggestions as to how we can supplement our resources, use our resources differently, I'd be interested in hearing all those. Maybe we will set up a meeting or something down the line. Second one is a different sort of a thing. We are going to repost our CYM position to see if we can find somebody. And I'll skip some of the reasoning, but we're going to ask, at least I think we're going to ask, unless I get massive negative feedback, we're going to include in the posting that we would be interested in somebody who wants to work with kids, but also may have some facility in some Afghan language. Pashto would be the most notable part. If we could get somebody working for the church who go out, interact with these people on the playground, their kids and the mothers, that would be, it'd be a great blessing. And then just in general, I'd appreciate your prayer that we have more kids come to church. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any old business? Seeing none, we'll move to new business. I don't know if this is the nominating committee. Usually it's the nominating committee that makes this report. Is it? Okay.
Yep. Or give it to Christabel.
Okay. In case you haven't seen the notices that have been around. So how do I do it? Just the elders first?
I don't know whichever you do the deacons first.
I would read all 4, and then we will vote on them one by one.
Oh, okay. So the nominating committee would like to present the following candidates to be voted on. So the term is 3 years. So for elders, we nominate Steve Van Dyne for a 2nd term, Chuck Davis for a 1st term. For the deacons, we would like to nominate Jason Perkins for a 2nd term and Barb Stewart for a 2nd term. So the only new change is Chuck Davis.
Replacing Bob Duddleston, who's serving at the end of his 2nd term.
Right. So I make a motion that this be the
Slate of nominees.
slate of nominees.
I'll second it.
Second.
Okay. We won't vote on that motion, but we will vote individually on the candidates. We always give the candidates an opportunity to say something if they would like to say something about themselves or the role they envision themselves carrying out. Jason, would you like to say anything? No? Okay. Barb, would you like to say anything?
I would just say that I really enjoyed being on the team.
Okay. Let's vote on the two deacon candidates then. I will ask them to leave the room temporarily. Does anyone have a comment about Jason Perkins?
I have been meeting with him and I find real potential.
Okay.
He brings half of the kids, so.
He's real
Steady.
steady.
Yeah.
Steady. I think that's a marvelous trait.
Yes.
And his heart for the kids is deep and strong, and that's a marvelous trait.
I'll say Jason has a lot of patience because most of the time when the women are working on BBS stuff, he's stuck with the young ones. So God bless him.
Any comments about Barb Stewart?
Really good heart.
She continues to send birthday and anniversary cards. And
Yes.
she does a lot of the warm, fuzzy kind of stuff, makes you feel special. Plus, she has a huge history with this church.
Also, she does drive people around, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those that don't know that. She brings people around.
Okay, we will vote first on Jason. I would ask you to close your eyes. If you are in favor of renominating Jason to the deacon board, please raise a hand. Okay, put them down. Any opposed? Okay. Keep your eyes closed. Now we will vote on Barb Stewart for a second term on the deacon board. If you are in favor, please raise a hand. Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. Could someone please invite them back in? They're both re-elected to their respective deacon board positions. I'm sure Jessica and Ellen are happy to have them back on the board with them.
Yeah, so it's
Well, I'm happy to announce that you are both in it for another 3 years. Thank you for your service, both past and future. Okay, Steve has been renominated to the elder board. Steve, do you have any comments you would like to make?
Wish I was a better person, wish I was a better elder. God willing, I'll try and keep improving.
I guess I forgot one part of the usual procedure, that if you have a question for the nominee, you're able to ask them before they leave the room. Any question for Steve? I remember when I was nominated for something, they said, "Why do you want to be on that board?" All right. And Chuck Davis is being nominated for, we call it the first term, but he's served at least 2 previous terms and had to be off for a while. Chuck, do you have anything you'd like to say?
As you noted, I served before. I did 6 years on the deacon board, 6 years on the elder board, and I've enjoyed my break off. But I said to God, you want me to do this. And I haven't seen a blanket or something to stand on my way. Welcome the opportunity to serve.
Thank you. Any question for Chuck?
You go way, way back.
Yeah, I'm really old.
I would say 10 Converge Mid-Atlantic. When did you start going to Old North?
Well, how old were you married? 55 years, so it's probably 3 years before we got married. So 64, my mother made a decision to leave the United Methodist Church, and we ended up with Old North. And that was 64, 65. And that's where I met this young girl from Greenford. The rest is history.
So I'm just, but you have this long history in the denomination. You two have a long history in this church. Steve has a long history in this church. Between newer people and people with a long history in the denomination, I think that's a real healthy balance. To have a kite and to have the tail on the kite. Have a good healthy balance.
She knows about being tails up. Okay, I will ask the 2 gentlemen to leave the room temporarily.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Does anyone have a comment about Steve they'd like to make?
Yes, I really, the job that Steve does with the kids and so faithful. Every week, even if he has one, he's there.
Yeah.
You know, and, also, transports people like Brother Jonathan. He's amazing.
Carter.
Steve brings a perspective to the elder board that we need, that we miss without him. We had another good example of the perspective he brings in growth plans this morning. And I've always appreciated his knowledge, his insights, his spiritual maturity, and the example he sets for all of us in humility.
Thank you. Any comment about Chuck?
Yes.
Kurt.
He was chair when I came on the elder board, and we are still using his font, his template on these agendas and reports. Big spiritual blessing there. But seriously, he set up some things on the elder board that we're still using, and I'm very glad to look at the prospect of him rejoining the board.
I think as an international, when we came, Chuck was the one who always calls and shakes hands. You know, I always appreciate it.
Okay, we will proceed to vote first for Steve. Please close your eyes. All those in favor of Steve for another term, please raise a hand. Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. All those in favor of Chuck for a 3-year term on the elder board, please raise a hand. Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. Jim, would you like to invite them back?
Did they get voted in?
You'll find out pretty soon. Yes, thank you. You'll both begin your next term May 1st. Steve, you'll still got a tail end of your first term. I think that's about it. I think that's about all 2-hour meeting, wow. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion.
All right, that was Chuck.
I'll second.
And I saw Marty's hand before I heard anybody's voice, so I'll give Marty the credit for putting in names of who seconded. All right. I will ask Jim if he would close our meeting in prayer, please.
Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful that you've been present with us. Thanks for the different perspectives that you give from life experiences and understanding of you. And as we wrestle with, especially on the outer board, some difficult decisions, and look at the opportunities, we're trusting you to lead us as you promised. And we're grateful, Jesus, for your presence here. We commit, and we're thankful for CJ and others that are new coming on the circle. Thanks so much for your love. Thanks for your promise to go with us into the rest of this week. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks,
Thank you, Ellen, for taking the minutes.
Everybody sign the card for voting down.
Oh, I have. So do I. For James.